The NBA legend who dominated the NBA without knees. Pause.
Bad boy.
In 2010, Kobe Bryant was asked who was the toughest player for him to guard. Roy, 365, 7 days a week. Roy has no weaknesses in his game. However, just a year later, Brandon Roy was out of the NBA. Standing at
What?
6'6" with a sturdy body and the ability to score and distribute from all three levels, Roy could do it all. But in 2002, just 4 years before he got drafted, Roy was cleaning shipping docks in Seattle for $11 an hour, and the NBA was just a distant dream. Still, he persevered, and by the end of the decade, Brandon was a three-time All-Star and one of the biggest stars in the NBA. But there was a big problem. By the end of his career, Roy had 7 knee surgeries, no meniscus, and no cartilage. And in order to
What?
play, he was taking cortisone shots and swallowing painkillers like they were gummy bears. But even with shot knees and his bones bruising against each other, B-Roy was still able to win playoff games on his own. This is a story about Brandon Roy, one of the most underrated players ever, and one of the biggest what-if careers in NBA history. One of the best qualities about Brandon Roy's game was that he was unselfish and patient, picking his spots and not trying to force things to get his numbers. And those qualities stemmed from childhood. He was one of 4 children, learning to share and to wait his turn in the bathroom. His father, Tony, who worked as a city bus driver, was a former basketball player at Garfield High School in Seattle, which Brandon would also attend. When it became clear that Brandon had a knack for sports, his parents began to save money to provide him with everything he needed. But Brandon's first love was football. He spent his younger years playing basketball sporadically with his older brother Ed. By the time he got to Garfield High, he had limited playing time. But by then, Brandon fell deeply in love with hoops, and he vowed to get to the NBA. So he worked diligently on his game, primarily focusing on ball handling drills and free throws. I felt like I was always going to make it to the NBA, and I was serious about it. I would work on my game all the time. I understood the criticism and accepted it, because I knew it would only help me to get to the level I wanted to be at. But when he was a sophomore, Brandon was still coming off the bench until the 2000 Washington State basketball tournament and the quarterfinal game against Mount Lake Terrace. A scrawny sophomore quickly found himself face-to-face with the most notorious shot blocker in the state, Seamus Boxley, a 6'7" senior bound for an NCAA Division I team. Roy sized up his opponent, drove baseline, leapt into the air, and dunked on Boxley with both hands. I couldn't even sleep that night. I was so happy about that. I think I only had like 4 points, but that dunk felt like 20. In his younger days, Roy had a 42-inch vertical that could replicate all of Vince Carter's dunks from the infamous 2000 dunk contest. And after that dunk on Boxley, Brandon finally caught the eye of Coach Wayne Floyd, who started giving him regular minutes. In his junior season, Roy felt he was ready to take over, and he did, scoring 19 points a game and leading the Bulldogs to a 27-2 record. But going into his senior year, Roy suffered his first knee injury, tearing the meniscus in his left knee. Now, during that time, the usual procedure was to remove meniscus tissue for faster recovery, which left Brandon with a lack of cartilage. Short term, it was great. Roy was able to recover quickly, and as a senior, he improved his numbers to 22 points and 10 rebounds per game. But in the long term, it was a horrible decision that would derail the rest of his career. Still, after such a strong senior year, Roy decided to enter his name into the 2002 NBA draft. Incidentally, B-Roy only had a workout with one team, Portland, where he got the chance to practice with Boris Diaw, who was already a professional playing in the French League and was also contemplating a move to the NBA. But after a 2-hour workout, Diaw helped Roy realize he wasn't physically ready for the NBA, and Brandon turned down workouts with other teams, instead deciding to accept a scholarship from the University of Washington. However, before he could enroll, Roy needed to pass the SAT, which was a nightmare, since he suffered from a learning disability that makes timed tests extraordinarily difficult, and his first attempt at the SAT fell short. Working with tutors, Roy retook the test late in his senior year, and this time his score shot up so dramatically that officials flagged the result as suspicious. Just as Roy was preparing to
That's crazy.
start fall classes at the UW, word arrived that the NCAA had declared him ineligible. Suddenly, a 19-year-old kid with NBA dreams found himself at a dead end. And instead of developing his talent, Brandon was hosing out shipping containers at the port of Seattle for $11 an hour. I was a nobody. I was the guy they said, "What happened to Brandon Roy? He's another guy who failed." Those months were especially demoralizing for Roy because he saw his brother go through the same thing. Coming out of Garfield, Ed Roy had scholarships from Division I schools in both football and basketball, but he also had a learning disability, and unlike Brandon's, it had gone undiagnosed until his senior year. But Brandon decided he wasn't going to let history repeat itself. He'd work at the shipping container plant every morning, then come home and prep for the test with a tutor every day. When he took the test
That's
again, he scored
dedication.
even higher than before. The NCAA made him eligible to play. Roy played 13 games as a freshman, mainly coming off the bench, and averaged just 6 points. Even though he played with 3 future pros in Nate Robinson, Bobby Jones, and Will Conroy, his coach, Lorenzo Romar, said that he knew Roy was the best player on the team since day one. When he joined us in January of his freshman year, we took him up to the gym, and he learned our offense in 45 minutes.
Wow.
High basketball IQ. He can handle the ball, athletic. From day one, we knew. But just like he did at home, patiently waiting for his turn to use the bathroom, Brandon didn't want to impose and take over games, averaging 13 points per game as a sophomore. When the Huskies lost to St. Louis in the first round of the NCAA tournament, Roy took just 5 shots, even though he was the best player on the floor, with 9 rebounds and 7 assists. In his junior year, Roy was determined not to be upstaged by any of his teammates, and in the first game of the season, he made 10 out of 15 shots for a team-high 23 points in a win over Seattle.
Nice.
But after the game, his right knee was swollen, and it turned out he injured his other meniscus. Just like the first time, Roy had a large portion of his meniscus removed. Playing without a meniscus in both knees meant that his career would be shortened, but nobody could have predicted how soon it would happen. However, removing a meniscus instead of repairing it meant that Brandon would once again return to the floor quickly, and he was back after only a month. Roy averaged 13 points per game on 57% shooting, helping the Huskies to a 29-6 record and to reach the Sweet 16, their best result in 50 years. Brandon believed this would be his final collegiate season, but after suffering another knee injury and playing limited minutes for the rest of the season, his draft stock plummeted. So he decided to stay in college for his senior year, and that proved to be a great decision. As a clear-cut leader on the team, B-Roy averaged 20.2 points, 5.6
I never knew Brandon got hurt this much.
rebounds, and 4.1 assists, while shooting 51% from the field, 40% from 3, and leading the team in 4 out of 5 major statistical categories. Roy could do it all: score, rebound, distribute, defend. But the true genius of his game was anticipation, unselfishness, hustle, and heart, aka the intangibles. In the NCAA tournament, he propelled the Huskies to their second straight Sweet 16 appearance. In his final college game, Roy was guarded by 3 defenders the entire game and still managed to tally 21 points. After the game, their coaches, one by one, came up to me and said, "Lorenzo, we watched the film. We watched him play. We knew he was really good, and we prepared to stop him. But we didn't know he was that good, that you can't stop him." Coach Romar. Roy was projected as a top 10 pick in the 2006 NBA draft. And after a series of draft day trades, the Portland Trail Blazers selected Brandon with the 6th overall pick, after they previously drafted LaMarcus Aldridge 2nd overall. And Roy put the league on notice with his first NBA game, a homecoming victory against the Seattle Supersonics in which he scored 20 points. However, 2 weeks later, an impingement in his left heel kept him out of the next 20 games. But when he returned, Roy didn't miss a beat, proving the prediction of his college coach. When he was a senior, I remember specifically telling some NBA scouts that they needed to take a look at drafting Brandon. And the comment was, "We need veterans." And I said, by January, he will be a veteran. Pretty soon, Roy established himself as the Blazers' go-to player in clutch situations due to his smooth, efficient style of play and ability to score from all areas of the court. This earned him a new nickname, The Natural, given to him by the Blazers radio announcer Brian Wheeler. Roy played in 57 games, averaging 16.8 points and 4 assists a game, leading all rookies in both categories. And he won the Rookie of the Year award almost unanimously, receiving 127 out of 128 first-place votes.
He was coming in his rookie year, it was just unbelievable. Like, he already had matched up with them guys that's already top tier, and he was a rookie.
Right.
And we only got to play a couple seasons together, but seeing that, what he did, them seasons I was there, it was unbelievable. Just his talent level, his poise, the way he get to the spot and just raise up, and his handle's so good. You might not think it's good, but you ain't gonna be able to rip him or nothing. And his size, and he's big.
Right.
Post, you can shoot it mid range. He could do it all.
In his second season, Roy improved his averages to 19.1 points and 5.8 assists per game, leading the Blazers in points, assists, and steals. Of all the shooting guards in the league, very few had all of his qualities: killer instinct, calmness in the clutch, the ability to see the floor, and a great jump shot. His mid-air hand-switch layup against the Raptors was Jordan-like, and due to his stellar play, Roy was selected for an All-Star game. And although he suffered an ankle injury in the last game before the All-Star weekend, he still played. But the injury lingered and ultimately affected his play for the rest of the 2008 season, and the Blazers missed the playoffs, finishing the year with a 41-41 record. In the 2008 preseason, Roy underwent another knee surgery, removing a piece of cartilage that was causing irritation in his left knee, leaving him with basically no cartilage. However, Roy was ready for the opening day, and in the 5th game of the season against the Rockets, Roy played one of the most clutch games of his career. First, he hit a game-leading turnaround jump shot to put the Blazers up by 2 with 2 seconds remaining. But after Yao Ming tied the game with .8 seconds left on the clock and hit the free throw for the lead, it seemed like the Rockets would escape with a victory. But Brandon Roy had other plans.
There's Blake to Roy. This is for the win.
In December, Roy scored a career-high 52 points against the Suns, with 6 assists and 5 rebounds, without a single turnover. At one point during the third quarter, he scored 15 straight points, looking absolutely unstoppable. On January 24th, Roy tied a Blazers franchise record with 10 steals against the Washington Wizards. And in February against the Knicks, with the Blazers trailing by 1, Roy made a layup at the buzzer for the win. Before the All-Star break, Roy had 24 shots that tied or won games with 35 seconds or less, and was considered one of the most clutch players in the NBA. He made the All-Star team again, and with the averages of 22.6 points, 5.1 assists, 4.7 rebounds, and 1.1 steals, Brandon was voted to the All-NBA second team, and he also finished 9th in MVP voting. The Blazers made the playoffs for the first time in 6 years, and in the first round against the Rockets, Roy dominated, scoring 42 points in Game 2 to tie the series. However, the Blazers were a young, inexperienced team, and they fell to the Rockets in 6 games. But there was no doubt who was the best player in the series. Roy led all scorers with 26.7 points per game, shooting 46% from the field, 47% from 3, and 87% from the free throw line. After the series, the Rockets' Ron Artest claimed that Brandon was the best player he played against.
He had that knee surgery. He gave me 40. Nobody gave me 40.
B-Roy was only 24 at the time, and he was supposed to just enter the prime of his career. But the injuries soon started to pile up. For the 2010 season, Roy was still relatively healthy, with only a hamstring injury limiting him to 65 games. He still averaged 21.5 points and 4.7 assists, making another All-Star team and earning All-NBA third-team honors. Overall, the 13 Blazers players missed a combined 311 games. But against all odds, they made the playoffs with a 50-32 record. However, they were supposed to play the first-round series against the Suns without their best player. On April 12, 2010, just 8 games before the playoffs started, an MRI revealed that Roy had a tear in the meniscus of his right knee, a small piece of meniscus he still had. The doctors told him to have surgery to repair it and miss the playoffs, but Roy didn't want to hear it. We earned these playoffs, and I want to play in those games. The entire regular season was played for the playoffs, and I would play it on one leg. Even then, Roy knew that his career was going to end prematurely, and every playoff game might be his last. He was taking painkillers to be able to play, sometimes not even able to get out of bed in the morning. So he elected to return that season no matter what, and made a heroic return to the lineup just 8 days after having right knee surgery. When he entered Game 4 against the Suns, the Rose Garden speakers trumpeted the theme song from Rocky, and Roy finished the game with 10 points, helping the Blazers to win the game and tie the series. However, the Suns took the next 2 games and advanced, spoiling Roy's return. When the 2011 season started, Roy was still playing close to his All-Star form, scoring 20-plus points in 9 of the 20 games he played. But his knees started to flare up more and more, and due to a lack of cartilage, they were grinding bone on bone. On January 17, 2011, Roy underwent arthroscopic surgery on both of his knees. Again, not following the advice of the Blazers doctors, who suggested that he do the surgery one knee and then the other. This would probably mean the end of his season. But Roy wanted to play, knowing that his clock was running out. This is how I felt about it all. Even when I was playing what people thought was great, I was hurting. I knew I didn't have that many moments left, so I had to go get them. People may say I shouldn't have played certain times, but nobody knew what I was going through. It was like, dude, these are the moments I have left, and I want to spend them playing, not rehabbing. When he returned to the lineup on February 25th, Brandon was visibly slower and less explosive than before, and coach Nate McMillan played him off the bench, with Roy averaging just 8 points per game in the second part of the season. But for Brandon, every time he stepped on the court was a victory, because he was struggling to get out of bed every morning and make it to the shower. He ate anti-inflammatory pills like vitamins, took cortisone shots in his hamstrings, and had his knee drained 20 times during the 2011 season. In the first-round playoff series against Dallas, Roy scored just 2 points on 1 for 8 shooting in the first 2 games, and nobody expected much of him for the rest of the series. However, in Game 3, Roy had 16 points and 4 assists, shooting 6 of 10 from the floor. But even though he had a good game, nobody could have predicted what would happen in Game 4. The Blazers played that game horribly, missing 15 straight shots in the third quarter, as the Mavericks' lead ballooned 67-44. Roy then made a 3-pointer near the end of the third to cut the lead to 67-49, which was his first field goal. Still, The Mavs looked to be in control and on their way to win the game. But then the basketball gods smiled at Brandon Roy for the last time. In the fourth quarter, Roy scored 18 points, including a clutch 4-point play to tie the game and a bank shot with 49 seconds left to give his team the lead for good. He finished with a game-high 24 points to lead the Blazers to an improbable 84-82 win to tie the series. I felt like the basketball gods were paying their last respects to me, like, you deserve this last moment. I really felt like that, because some of the stuff I was doing, for the first time in my life, I was just letting it go. I was just having fun with it. These were the type of moments Roy was chasing, knowing that his career was coming to an end. He scored 14 more points in the next 2 games for the Blazers, which would be his last points for Portland, as the Mavericks won the next 2 games in the series. Just before NBA training camp opened for the 2011-2012 season, Roy announced that he was retiring from basketball. That Game 4 against the Mavericks was his last hurrah. But just a year into his retirement, Roy started to feel better, and the basketball itch was too strong, like it had been all his life. Brandon wanted to give it one last go, signing a 2-year deal with the Timberwolves and hoping to revive his career. However, in the last preseason game while guarding Milwaukee's Monte Ellis, Roy felt a sharp twinge in his left knee. I remember sitting on the bench, mumbling, "I think I did it again," Roy said. He was still able to play in the first 5 games of the season, but soon he was compensating so much for the pain in his left knee that his right knee started to swell. Not even a month into the season, he was having another knee surgery, the 7th of his basketball career. Roy never played basketball again, and he remains one of the biggest what-ifs of all time.
There was a point where Kobe said that Brandon Roy was the second best shooting guard in the league. He was cold. You couldn't speed him up. He played with a pace. He could 3-level score, ISO, dunk you, shoot over the top of you.
I was gonna say he was a big guard.
He was a big guard, faster than you think. I mean, he was like Cade.
Brandon Roy had Hall of Fame talent. And if he never had a knee injury and kept that 42-inch vertical he had in school, he likely would have become one of the greatest shooting guards of all time. Thank you for watching. And if you like this video, we have another one for you right here.
W video, man, yeah. I never got to watch Brandon Roy because I'm Gen Z. I was born in 2001. So, yeah. But let me know what y'all think about Brandon Roy, man. Have any of y'all saw Brandon Roy growing up, and what were y'all favorite moments of him? It's your boy Cal. Thank you guys and girls for watching. Hit that thumbs up, hit the subscribe. We on the road to 10K, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.